Happy New Year's. How's everybody doing tonight? Is my audio on? Looks like it is. Had a little bit of a hiccup with it last time. Yeah, you gotta dress up, right? Even if you're at home with the puppy and the dino and the farmhouse. Nothing against the farmhouse, but with the puppy and the dino. Robot Kyo, Sharkies. How's everybody doing? Y'all ready for 2021 to end? Nice bow tie on the dino. Yeah, it counts. Counts, right? Oh, and there's the puppy. Puppy wants a New Year's treat. Oh, I dropped one. I'm gonna find the one that I dropped. It's down here. There you go. Dappersaurus. Oh boy. How is everyone tonight? Are we just waiting for 2023? We're not quite there yet. You know, 2022 could be good. It could be good. You know what? It's gonna be good. It's gonna be better, right? I was thinking, Farmhouse and I were talking a bit about. This is definitely one of those years. I feel like part of the pandemic thing of you're missing kind of some significant events, and so it makes it, I think, difficult to remember the entirety of the year. And so we were kind of talking about things that happened this year, good things that happened this year. I was kind of, Robot Kyo, correct me if I'm wrong, but Monster Hunter Rise, did Monster Hunter Rise come out this year? That feels like way longer ago for some reason, but I'm pretty sure that was this year, right? Monster Hunter Rise came out. There are a few good games this year. Started this book stream. We haven't been going for a full year just yet. We started it in July. Stormy is sitting at the table with Sharkies, investigating Mia's placemat. Sitting on the chair. Yeah, right? It doesn't feel like Monster Hunter Rise came out this year, but it did, which is weird. Yeah. Yeah, this is one of those years that both feels very, very short and very, very long to me. You know, it kind of, I think, is one of those. I don't remember all of the year very well, but when I do remember stuff from early in the year, it feels ancient. Like that meme of Bernie Sanders sitting all frozen in his like camping chair that went around the internet for forever. That was just this year, I'm pretty sure. Almost got Monster Hunter when you were looking for PS4s. I like the Monster Hunter series. I could go on about that. I feel like they've been getting a bit easier recently, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, especially for new players if you haven't played one before. Mittens Grandpa. What else? What else happened this year? Our good friend Izzy revealed some stuff to us about themselves. That's pretty awesome. You watched Big Fat Quiz of the Year 2021 the other night. Oh, okay. I think we might watch some of that tonight. I'm not sure. Oh, I see. Mittens were also mentioned on it. I see. Yeah, we have. Farmhouse and I have not watched that yet. Puppy's kind of hiding behind the box over there. He still is not quite used to this new bed we got him. He doesn't seem to understand it's for him. What else was this year? Some things that we were thinking were this year were in fact last year. Like Cyberpunk didn't come out this year. That was a year ago. But yeah, started this stream. That's exciting. We got through 2.5 books roughly. I guess we're not quite halfway through this. Well, we're almost halfway through. We're getting close. We are on page 119 out of 262. So we're not quite halfway, but we're almost there. What was good for everyone else? What Robot Kyo, Sharkies, Farmhouse? What was good this year for all of you? Um, yeah, we got the vaccine. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. Robot Kyo left his job, which is definitely a good thing. That was one thing that came up. I think that's a big improvement for you, and going back to school. That's really awesome. Oh yeah, and there you go saying it. You quit your job to go back to school. It's going well. High five for school. Yeah. I cut in on your high five. That was supposed to be between Farmhouse and Robot Kyo. Yeah, the both of them went back to school, which is just fantastic. Um, I got to go back to Kung Fu for a while. I was happy about that. We're definitely back on a little bit of a shutdown, but we're hoping that it won't be for more than like a month before I can go back again. We'll see. We'll see. Yeah, people are getting their third boosters at this point. Which, if you haven't gotten your third booster, I have not yet, but I have heard of a lot of places doing just drop ins, no appointment needed, because they need to use their vaccines up. So it's possible that, you might be able to just go in and get your third shot. I don't know how that goes. Sharky's calendar was pictures from 2020. Good happy memory photos of you and kids. Now 22 is from Langley Farm Market. It's a salad. What? Salad for January. Possibly other food for other months. Okay. Um, yeah. I don't know. I definitely like. There were some other fun things. Went camping during the summer. Um, I got my PlayStation 5. That's cool. That's been fun to play with. Looking forward to some stuff on that. Hmm. I started two new D&D games. Only did one session of one of them, but the Curse of Strahd game's been a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to continuing that. So that's definitely a plus for me because it had been a while since I had gotten to play a D&D before starting those. Um, you know, for the obvious reasons. But it's been very nice seeing some friends in person a little bit more frequently. Robakia says, and that was back into roleplay for him too after a few years hiatus. Yes, we missed you in those. There was definitely a few things where that, I mean, it's something that should be fun, right? If you're not having fun gaming, then don't game. Like, what's the point in doing it if it's not fun? Yeah, it's probably slightly more complex than that for some people, but I think the primary thing should be, you should be having fun if you're gaming. Sharky's nearly finished one D&D game and played a one-shot over Roll20 with some friends and family. That's cool. I haven't really done much in the way of online gaming. I've been in some games where other players have been online, but whoa, okay? Looked like there's a little bit of a hiccup on the stream there. Maybe that was just on my end. Yeah, I've been in some games where there has been like someone else that's online, but I don't think I've ever actually run a session online, and I haven't played in an online game as a player either. I don't think. Not actual D&D or like other tabletop games. I've done, when I was younger, I used to do like some online roleplay type stuff, um, but not anything, rules based. So the gaming stuff's been good. Seeing people again has been good, even if, sporadic. I have found that I feel like my social skills have degraded during the pandemic. I've gotten, I think, worse at carrying on conversations. Sometimes I'm just sitting there being like, I should have something to say right now, but I just don't. And that can be awkward. Sharky's current D&D campaign has both been in person and somewhat on Messenger video chat, with one attempt at the session in Roll20. Robakio's social battery is atrophied. Yeah. There are some people that I can just hang out with, without getting tired. Um, People that, I'm very comfortable with, but most people I'm like, I can hang out for a bit, and then I need to go and hibernate in the dark with a puppy. um, so, I don't know. Maybe I need to join, what's that club called? Like Toastmasters or something, which I didn't know for a little while what that was about. Do these people just really like bread? Um, but maybe I need to like join Toastmasters and relearn how to talk to people. Rabakio thinks a big part of the talking with folks is that none of us has been into much the last. That is definitely a thing. Like, the default small talk is, how are things? What have you been up to? Because we're used to that from the olden times. But I think we all need to, myself included, get out of the habit of asking that question. Don't ask me what I've been up to. That's just rude. I don't need to tell you that. I've been sitting on the couch playing video games, looking at my phone a lot. Leave me alone. That is a tough thing with D&D, looking at what the Sharkies just said. Just keeping games going and regularly meeting up with people is not always the easiest thing to do. I'm not used to maintaining a social schedule really personally. Um, so my ability to like, I don't do the like every Saturday I see this person. I do this one thing. Um, so that's and of course every person in the groups either either your schedules all need to align, or it needs to be the type of group where everybody's fine continuing if somebody's absent. And most of the games I'm in, that just feels wrong to me. I have trouble with that as an idea. I don't like, if we're all telling this story together, we're all experiencing it together, and we're all making decisions together, then if somebody's not there, it feels wrong continuing without them. And when I run games, I try to make it kind of about everybody in the group. So if a player can't make it, I'm like, what? But they need to. They need to be there because there are things for them. Mrs. Sharkey used to be 1000% extrovert, and a little less so after having small children, but during the plague you become even less completely extrovert. Maybe only 93% now. Once in a while I need to not have people demand so you can recharge, which was never the case in the before times. I've usually needed some recharging and some away from people time. I'm not as heavy for that as some people. I think I can handle being around people longer than some others can, and not. I'm trying to say this without making it sound like without it sounding like there's a good way to be or a bad way to be. That's just some people need more time by themselves. And sometimes that's me. Robakio feels more introverted, but also feels like you've lost some extroversion as well. Yeah, for me, the biggest thing, I do feel like I have less social battery, but I also just feel, I don't know, less, like I'm personally less entertaining in carrying on conversations with people. Like I'm more prone to say awkward things or not have the right response in conversations and things like that, which it's weird. It's weird feeling like I've lost skills in that and with people. Sharkies are agreeing with Robakio. Social muscles have atrophied. So some say, yeah, like I said, we all gotta join Toastmasters and just relearn it as a skill. I don't know. How do you practice being social without it feeling like a job? I guess just be around people again. We just gotta get back out there. Easier said than done. Uh, so, I'm gonna try not to ramble for 45 minutes this time because, people got things to do. It's New Year's Eve. Engage in social tennis. Yes. Questions. How was your year? I'm holding a book. Everyone? So we're about almost halfway through. Now I know Robakio has kind of been on and off. The Sharkies have been here for the entirety of it. What do you think of the book so far? Halfway in, what are you thinking? Are you enjoying this writing style? Um, do you like the way that things are presented? What do you think of the way that magic has been presented so far compared to, like, I'm just kind of trying to compare it in my head to other settings, and I'm thinking, like, to me it's somewhat similar, looking at those, still getting used to all the new names and places. There are a lot of names and places. It's That's one of those things where I've read these books enough time where I don't think I notice it as much unless I actively think about it. Um, where I see a name or whatever, and I'm just like, okay, I know what that, like, it's familiar to me, and so I think because they do introduce a lot of characters in these books. Um, Farmhouse has been a while since she last read it, so bits are coming back. Slower activity increase than you remember it. Robot Q's liked it. It feels very normal fantasy book, comfortable but well done. Yeah, it does feel like there's unique parts to it, but it doesn't do anything too crazy right off the bat. Like, we're halfway into this book and there's some unique things, but not super unique, right? Like, you don't have dimensional travelers or things like that. You don't have alien invasions or anything, like, anything that's like weird to a fantasy setting. It is like, it doesn't even have fantasy peoples, like fantasy races. There's no orcs and elves and dwarves. So in that regard, it's even like maybe like a step back from fantasy compared to Lord of the Rings. But the magic, I was thinking, you don't see very much magic in the Lord of the Rings, right? I think you see a little bit more magic in Lord of the Rings than we have so far in this book. Because Gandalf, at least, is around and doing magical things in like The Hobbit. Um, but so far we haven't seen very much in the way of magic in Pawn of Prophecy. We've caught glimpses of it, but it has not been very much explained, and not flashy, not really in your face when it happens. Um, Mostly like mental things. Sharky say it's a little surprising that we're halfway through the book and it feels like it's just kind of started. Yeah, there have been some developments happening. There's been a little more active antagonism in the past few chapters, but yes, definitely. Like, the first like 4 or 5 chapters, it's Garion being a boy on a farm, like getting into childhood mischief with like the occasional slightly more unusual thing than that, but mostly that kind of stuff, right? Pharma says the world building gets more apparent the further in you get. Sharky saw a description of it the other day, that this is the last of classic high fantasy bridging into contemporary fantasy. That's interesting. Hmm. I would need to look at a timeline of books and things that I've actually read myself, but yeah, I could kind of see that because I feel like after this, because this is early 80s, right? This is 1982, and I think like late 80s you start getting a lot more books based on like D&D games and things like that, and you get like, I don't know, Wheel of Time. I don't know if that's 80s or 90s, and sort of larger scale fantasies. Maybe not larger scale, but yeah, like more modern. And like, Dragonlance I think started maybe in the late 80s. Um, I'm not sure when like Icewind Dale showed up with Drizzt, whatever the first Drizzt Do'Urden book was. Um, so yeah, I could see that. I could see that. Rawakio likes that kind of magic. Reminds you of Lord of the Rings magic or early depictions of the Force in Star Wars. We'll see if that holds true as the books progress. But where we're at right now, yeah, we've heard of the gods doing things like Aldur, like creating the world, and Aldur creating the Orb of Aldur, and so that I don't think that really necessarily falls under the category of magic. Um, and then we've gotten glimpses of basically some mental shenanigans, pulling thoughts out of people's heads, and um, Garion has recently had some realizations about why he hasn't been able to talk about the man on the man in black on the horse, that maybe is magic related. Sharky say the magic feels more rare, and even sword fighting being more rare. Not every farm boy is a fireball casting broadsword fighter. Yeah, I mean, so far, Garion has once, I think, drawn his little dagger and once swung around a piece of firewood as a cudgel. Um, he's gotten some kind of like ba- battle thirst going on. That's been kind of described as his blood boiling in his ears or something like that. But yeah, we did most, like in the last chapter, the most recent chapter, we did, I think, have our most elaborate fight so far with Silk doing some impressive acrobatics and jumping kicks and throwing knives. We didn't really get to see, I say see, Barak fighting. We saw that he drew his sword and he talked about it a bit, but Garion kind of got pulled away from where Barak was, and so therefore we kind of got pulled away from where Barak was, and we didn't really see exactly how his fight went. So he just talked about it after the fact. I'm really out of focus. I'm sitting back a little bit because I'm wearing this hat, and if I sit any closer, it goes out the top of the frame, but I guess that's fine. Doesn't really matter too much. Farmo saying you get a lot more interactions with people who seem more like level 1 commoners or level 0. Yeah, there's a lot of farmers and merchants and things of that nature. And then we've got our adventuring party, and even the party itself, like, you kind of get the impression, okay, Mr. Wolf knows lots, and Aunt Pole knows lots, but they're not necessarily depicted as adventurers per se, whereas then you've got Silk and Barak, who clearly are very experienced in the world and are quite ready for a fight. And then you've got Dernick the Smith, who is very ready to go in and do what needs to be done, but also he's not trained with any kind of weaponry as far as we're aware. Farmo says, and no monsters so far, no goblin cave to start them off, no quest to hunt kobolds. Sharky say, you could be like, my hat is really, really tall. Yes, yes. If I sit like this, you have no idea. It could be reaching the ceiling. I could be anchored to the hat. Yeah. So, in the most recent chapter, they had a bit of a fight. They were ambushed. Um, they believe they were being watched. They saw Brill, and they think they saw Asherak, the Murgo. And Silk may have tagged Asherak with a dagger. Um, and then they fled from what they were in Kamar, right? I think they were in Kamar, um, or was it Muros? Either way, they fled to the Erend, no, the Algar camp, and the Algars were quite willing to give Mr. Wolf, or Ancient One as they called him, when they saw his silver hair and beard. They were quite willing to give up some horses and escort them for a ways to make sure that they were safe and show them a good route to their next destination. I think Farmos thinks they were headed to Kamar. That's possible. When Garion asked about the Ancient One business, Aunt Pole said they were superstitious, the Algars. Let's see. They were in Muros, and they were going to show them a path that would take them to the other side of Muros. Sharkies are going to duck out in 15 minutes. Going to see a movie? What movie? I'll start reading then, huh? Let's get this, and then, you know, whatever you miss, this will be up on YouTube afterwards if you want to catch up on the chapter with me. Dune, still need to see that. Okay, let's get into chapter 10. Let's see how long it is. Starts on page 119 and goes to page 137, so it's a little longer. We'll see how it goes. Chapter 10. Gradually, almost imperceptibly, oh, I am way out of focus again. Gradually, almost imperceptibly, the darkness became paler as the softly falling snow... I'm back here, camera. As the softly falling snow made indistinct even the arrival of morning. Their seemingly inexhaustible horses pounded on through the growing light, the sound of their hooves muffled by the snow, now lying fetlock deep on the broad surface of the Great North Road. It's a word I don't see very often, fetlock. Garion glanced back once, and saw the jumbled tracks of their passage stretching behind them, and, already at the hazy gray limit of his vision, beginning to fill with concealing snow. When it was fully light, Mr. Wolf reined in his steaming horse and proceeded at a walk for a time. "How far have we come?" he asked Silk. The weasel-faced man, who had been shaking the snow out of the folds of his cloak, looked around, trying to pick out a landmark in the misty veil of dropping flakes. 10 leagues, he said finally. Perhaps a bit more. "This is a miserable way to travel," Barak rumbled, wincing slightly as he shifted his bulk in the saddle. "Think of how your horse must feel," Silk grinned at him. "How far is it to Kamar?" Aunt Pole asked. 40 leagues from Muros, Silk told her. "We'll need shelter then," she said. "We can't gallop 40 leagues without rest, no matter who's behind us." "I don't think we need to worry about pursuit just now," Wolf said. "I think we can count on the Algars to detain Brill and his hirelings, or even Asherak if they try to follow us." "At least there's something Algars are good for," Silk said dryly. "If I remember correctly, there should be an Imperial hostel about 5 leagues farther to the west," Wolf said. "We ought to reach it by noon." "Will we be allowed to stay there?" Dernick asked doubtfully. "I've never heard that the Tolnedrans are noted for hospitality." "Tolnedrans sell anything for a price," Silk said. The hostel would be a good place to stop. Even if Brill or Asherak evade the Algars and follow us there, the Legionnaires won't permit any foolishness within their walls. Why should there be Tolnedran soldiers in Sendaria? Garion asked, feeling a brief surge of patriotic resentment at the thought. Wherever the great roads are, you'll find the legions, Silk said. Tolnedrans are even better at writing treaties than they are at giving short weight to their customers. Mr. Wolf chuckled. You're inconsistent, Silk, he said. You don't object to their highways, but you dislike their legions. You can't have one without the other. I've never pretended to be consistent, the sharp-nosed man said airily. If we want to reach the questionable comfort of the Imperial hostel by noon, hadn't we better move along? I wouldn't want to deny His Imperial Majesty the opportunity to pick my pocket. I don't know what's happening in chat right now, you guys. 5.5 kilometers of Legends, that famous game. I guess you're talking about the distance of leagues. All right. All right, Wolf said. Let's ride. And he put his heels to the flanks of the Algar horse, which had already begun to prance impatiently under him. The hostel, when they reached it in the full light of snowy noon, proved to be a series of stout buildings surrounded by an even stouter wall. The legionnaires who manned it were not the same sort of men as the Tolnedran merchants Garion had seen before. Unlike the oily men of commerce, these were hard-faced professional fighting men in burnished breastplates and plumed helmets. Well, I don't know if these are exactly the same type of plumed helmets that Vimes is accustomed to. And we know Captain Vimes's views of plumes. They carried themselves proudly, even arrogantly, each bearing the knowledge that the might of all Tolnedra was behind him. The food in the dining hall was plain and wholesome, but dreadfully expensive. The tiny sleeping cubicles were scrupulously clean, with hard, narrow beds and thick woolen blankets, and were also expensive. The stables were neat, and they too reached deeply into Mr. Wolf's purse. Garion wondered at the thought of how much their lodging was costing, but Wolf paid for it all with seeming indifference, as if his purse were bottomless. "We'll rest here until tomorrow," the white-bearded old man announced when they had finished eating. Farmouse says it sounds like a tourist trap. Sharky say, "Ooh, medieval cubicles." "Maybe it'll snow itself out by morning. I'm not happy with all this plunging blindly through a snowstorm. Too many things can hide in our path in such weather." I feel that. Garion, who by now was numb with exhaustion, heard these words gratefully as he half-drowsed at the table. The others sat talking quietly, but he was too tired to listen to what they said. "Garion," Aunt Pole said, finally, "why don't you go to bed?" "I'm all right, Aunt Pole," he said, rousing himself quickly, mortified once more at being treated like a child. "Now, Garion," she said in that infuriating tone he knew so well. It seemed that all his life she had been saying, "Now, Garion," to him. But he knew better than to argue. He stood up and was surprised to feel that his legs were trembling. Aunt Pole also rose and led him from the dining hall. "I can find my way by myself," he objected. "Of course," she said. "Now come along." After he had crawled into bed in his cubicle, she pulled his blankets up firmly around his neck. "Stay covered," she told him. "I don't want you taking cold." She laid her cool hand briefly on his forehead, as she had done when he was a small child. "Aunt Pole?" he asked drowsily. "Yes, Geryon?" "Who are my parents? I mean, what were their names?" She looked at him gravely. "We can talk about that later," she said. "I want to know," he said stubbornly. "All right. Your father's name was Geron. Your mother's name was Ildera." Geryon thought about that. "The names don't sound Sendarian," he said finally. "They're not," Aunt Pole said. "Why was that?" "It's a very long story," she said, "and you're much too tired to hear it just now." On a sudden impulse, he reached out and touched the white lock at her brow with the mark of the palm on his right hand. As had sometimes happened before, a window seemed to open in his mind at the tingling touch. But this time that window opened on something much more serious. There was anger, and a single face. A face that was strangely like Mr. Wolfe's, but was not his face. And all the towering fury in the world was directed at that face. Aunt Pole moved her head away. "I've asked you not to do that, Geryon," she said, her tone very matter-of-fact. "You're not ready for it yet." "You're going to have to tell me what it is someday," he said. "Perhaps," she said, "but not now. Close your eyes and go to sleep." And then, as if that command had somehow dissolved his will, he fell immediately into a deep, untroubled sleep. How are the Sharkies doing? What time should I go to? Because this is a bit of a longer chapter, so I could stop partway through and then we could continue next week. So just let me know when to stop and hopefully I'll see your message. By the next morning it had stopped snowing. The world outside the walls of the Imperial Hostel was mantled in thick, unbroken white, and the air was filmy with a kind of damp haze that was almost, but not quite, fog. "Misty Sandaria," Silk said ironically at breakfast. "Sometimes I'm amazed that the entire kingdom doesn't rust shut." They traveled all that day at a mile-eating canter, and that night there was another Imperial hostel, almost identical to the one they had left that morning. So closely identical, in fact, that it almost seemed to Geryon that they had ridden all day and merely arrived back where they had started. He commented on that to Silk as they were putting their horses in the stable. "Tolnedrans are nothing if not predictable," Silk said. "All their hostels are exactly the same. You can find these same buildings in Drasnia, Algaria, Arendia, and any place else that their great roads go. It's their one weakness, this lack of imagination." "Don't they get tired of doing the same thing over and over again?" "It makes them feel comfortable, I guess," Silk laughed. "Let's go see about supper." It snowed again the following day, but by noon Geryon caught a scent other than the faintly dusty odor snow always seemed to have. Even as he had done when they had approached Doreen, he began to smell the sea, and he knew their journey was almost at an end. McHostel. Kamar, the largest city in Sandaria. Now that it said the largest city in Sandaria, I know where we are. The largest city in Sandaria and the major seaport of the north was a sprawling place which had existed at the mouth of the Greater Kamar River since antiquity. It was the natural western terminus of the Great North Road, which stretched to Bakhtor in Drasnia, and the equally natural northern end of the Great West Road, which reached down across Arendia into Tolnedra, and the imperial capital at Tolhoneth. With some accuracy, it could be said that all roads ended at Kamar. Late on a chill, snowy afternoon, they rode down a gradual hill toward the city. Some distance from the gate, Aunt Pole stopped her horse. "Since we're no longer posing as vagabonds," she announced, "I see no further need for selecting the most disreputable inns, do you?"
I hadn't really thought about it,
Mr. Wolf said. "Well, I have," she said. "I've had more than enough of wayside hostels and seedy village inns. I need a bath, a clean bed, and some decent food. If you don't mind, I'll choose our lodging this time."
Of course, Pole,
Wolf said mildly.
whatever you say.
"Very well, then," she said, and rode on toward the city gate, with the rest of them trailing behind her. I am going to stop when the Sharkies leave, both because it's New Year's Eve and also because I'm looking forward to some of the stuff that happens in Kamar. So I'll get us into Kamar here, huh? "What's your business in Kamar?" one of the fur-mantled guards at the broad gate asked, rather rudely. Aunt Pole threw back her hood and fixed the man with a steely gaze. "I am the Duchess of Erat," she announced in ringing tones. "These are my retainers, and my business in Kamar is my own affair." The guard blinked, and then bowed respectfully. "Forgive me, your grace," he said. "I didn't intend to give offense." "Indeed?" Aunt Pole said, her tone still cold and her gaze still dangerous. "I didn't recognize your grace," the poor man floundered, squirming under that imperious stare. "May I offer any assistance?" "I hardly think so," Aunt Pole said, looking him up and down. "Which is the finest inn in Kamar?" "That would be the Lion, my lady." "And?" she said impatiently. "And what, my lady?" the man said, confused by her question. "Where is it?" she demanded. "Don't stand there gaping like a dolt. Speak up." "It lies beyond the customs houses," the guard replied, flushing at her words. "Follow this street until you reach Customs Square. Anyone there can direct you to the Lion." Aunt Pole pulled her hood back up. "Give the fellow something," she said over her shoulder, and rode on into the city without a backward glance. "My thanks," the guard said as Wolf leaned down to hand him a small coin. "I must admit that I haven't heard of the Duchess of Erat before."
You're a fortunate man, Wolf said.
"She's a great beauty," the man said admiringly.
And has a temper to match, Wolf told him.
"I noticed that," the guard said. "We noticed you noticing," Silk told him slyly. They nudged their horses and caught up with Aunt Pole. "The Duchess of Erat?" Silk asked mildly. "The fellow's manner irritated me," Aunt Pole said loftily, "and I'm tired of putting on a poor face in front of strangers." Aunt Pole's great. I love that bit. Just don't stand there like a dolt. All right, I think that's a good place to stop. I know it's only 6:45, and this is where you have to go. Yeah. All right. Well, Happy New Year's. I hope the movie's good. I hope to see it myself sometime soon. Yeah, Happy New Year, everyone. Sorry about this shorter stream, but I don't know. I think it's not inappropriate. Let's keep it short and sweet on a day like today. Everybody saying Happy New Year. That was my impression of having Yeah. All right. Well, I think that belongs there, huh? Yeah, there we go. Yep. See everybody next year. Oh, there's the puppy. As I'm completely out of focus. There we go. Hey, puppy. No? You want a treat? Come say Happy New Year to everybody. Happy New Year from Benedict and I. See everybody in 2022. Oh, actually, let me just take a quick look at the calendar because it's possible I might be out of town next Wednesday. I'm not sure. 2022, the first, second, third. No, I should be here. I think I'll be here. I think I should be able to do the stream as normal next Wednesday. So hopefully I'll see everybody then. Happy New Year, everyone. Here's to a good next year. Cheers. Good night.